Hello, everybody, and welcome back to All About America's Team, brought to you by Delahanty Media. I am Ray Nickens, the Speaker of Objectivity, joined today, as always, with
Owen DeChico.
And the week is finally over and football is in the air. And myself and Owen, we are focused on the 12 o'clock matchup on Sunday afternoon versus the Dallas Cowboys and the Carolina Panthers. Dak Prescott will be not necessarily on the hot seat, but he will be on the verge of making it into my top 10 football quarterbacks for the NFL if he were to win this football game. And we'll get a little bit into that later on in the show. But we're also going to break down a little bit some key matchups between the Panthers and the Cowboys, how the Cowboys will be able to win this game, and also how could the Carolina Panthers possibly survive this game versus the Dallas Cowboys, even without Christian McCaffrey. We're very excited to get into all of those things. But first, Owen, what do you have for us today with the news?
So this past week, we had a few key players that did not practice. Tony Pollard did not practice, and a lot of people worried that it was due to an injury, but it was not. It was due to the birth of his first child. So congratulations, Tony Pollard, and your
excellent. Good work. Good work.
First child. Randy Gregory did not practice due to a knee injury, but he will most likely play. I think that especially with all the other defensive ends not playing, they need him now more than ever. Donovan Wilson for the third straight game will be out due to a groin, I think, injury, which is very rough, but thankfully the Cowboys have depth at the safety position, which is something that they had not had in a very long time. And lastly, for injuries, Bradley Anae and Keanu Neal will not be playing due to COVID. Hopefully next week, Keanu Neal will be able to go out there. He is out for extra week because of COVID, because he is unvaccinated. So hopefully he will be able to come back better than ever. And I'm not sure on Anai's status. I just think that it's taking him longer to recuperate than others. And obviously, Christian McCaffrey is not playing, and hopefully he can come back quick, because whenever Christian McCaffrey is healthy and playing, the NFL is a lot more enjoyable to watch, and fantasy owners love it.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey is quite a big loss for me personally, because I have him on my fantasy team in one of the leagues. So I was not very excited when he pulled up on that run last week against the Houston Texans. But in this case, it's a huge break for the Dallas Cowboys run D, because they were going to have to go up against a pure specimen at running back, and that was going to be a real challenge. But now that he's out, they should have a little bit more of they actually should be favored, especially because of their defense and how well they've been playing so far.
I think it's a 4.5 point favorite, which I'm not a big fan of, but it's understandable. I think I think the Panthers would be favored if McCaffrey was playing.
Yeah, I also think Keanu Neal and Donovan Wilson is a huge loss in the secondary. Both of those players have had huge impact so far. Keanu Neal forcing some turnovers in the Bucs game, and also just being around the football against the Chargers. And I believe he played against the Chargers, did he not? Or was that? Or
yes,
did he play last? Yeah, the Chargers.
He's been out the past 2 weeks. Yeah, he played in the Chargers game. He did not play in the Eagle game.
Yeah, it's just, the injury bug biting our safety unit, but it's been okay, because the Cowboys, they do have Malik Hooker back there, who's a competent safety who made some big plays last week against the Eagles. But just those dang Achilles bros, they just find a way to get hurt or not get hurt, or not to make fun of injury, but I did call him an Achilles brother for a reason. But with that being said, it is a huge loss at safety. It puts our corners Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis in a compromisable position, them not being very great corners. But I still think the Cowboys are talented enough in the back end to put up a little bit of a fight against Sam Darnold or should I say Mono Man Sam and the Panthers offense.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I think Sam has definitely benefited from having a very solid run game, and we'll talk about this later. But he's been sacked quite a few times throughout the first 3 games. So if he gets sacked 2 to 3 times this game on top of not having a running game, then I think that we're gonna see flashbacks of Mono Man Sam in a Jets uniform just outside of the Cowboy game. So we're gonna see the good old Mono Man Sam, not the 1 game anomaly against the Cowboys.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great transition point to get into our main topic of the day, which is, of course, Dallas Cowboys, Carolina Panthers, Sunday afternoon. Middle, I guess not prime time, but you could say afternoon prime time. So just let's get into that game. Let's just talk about some key matchups and players who will be a huge impact for either team if they want to win this game. We talked about the injury report, who will not be there. So let's just get into who will be there. So I think to start off my key matchups, I think that the Panthers wide receivers are going to have to come up big against the Cowboys secondary. Obviously, DJ Moore is probably going to be covered by Trayvon Diggs the most of the game. Trayvon Diggs has proven that he is good enough to follow the other team's best best wide receiver. But even if he wasn't, he's the best corner that we have because our other two are not very good, in Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis. So I think if Trayvon Diggs can stop DJ Moore, make him irrelevant for this game, then it's going to be up to Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis to contain Robbie Anderson and the other receivers on the Panthers. So that's going to be my key matchup. Can Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis earn their spots today? Because as we know, Kelvin Joseph is still not back with his groin injury. Nashawn Wright hasn't seen very much playing time. So it's going to be on those two to stay with their man and make it hard for Sam Darnold to get the ball out of his hands. Another thing, I think I'm looking at Chuba Hubbard. Gosh, that's a really great name. He's the fill-in for Christian McCaffrey this week, and it's going to be up to him and the Panthers offensive line to get that running game going, even without Christian McCaffrey. Dallas Cowboys have shown that they've been pretty good against the run, but as I talked about last week, they haven't really had very much sample size. Teams have not really ran the ball as much against them. They prefer to throw it because they've had success throwing the football. But the Panthers are a run-first football team, and they like to get their backs involved. So I think it's going to be up to Hubbard to really get that ground game going if they want to beat the Cowboys. And then last but not least, Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, he's pretty much the main decision maker of how this game is going to go. If he can be consistent and score early and score often, it's going to put some pressure on Sam Darnold, who is not as good of a quarterback as Dak by any means. So if Dak can just put his foot on Sam Darnold and the Panthers early, it will probably be a walk in the park for the rest of the game. Because if they're going to have to abandon the run and throw the football, they will definitely not have much success doing that. So I'm looking at Dak Prescott to drop the hammer early and then just be consistent throughout the game.
Yeah, those are really big key matchups, especially Dak. Hopefully he can continue with his first drive success, and hopefully Dallas will be able to keep that type of intensity for all 4 quarters instead of playing great in the first half and then kind of disappearing into the last 10 to 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. The other matchups that I have that you did not say are Brian Burns versus Terrence Steele. Burns is by far their best defensive lineman, and Terrence Steele is arguably our worst offensive lineman, but an argument can be made that he is second to worst behind or in front of Connor Williams. But that is, we if we have to, we will get into that for the Panthers game breakdown. But hopefully Terrence Steele can get some help and some chip blocks from Dalton Schultz. And yeah, I feel talking about Trayvon Diggs, if he can lock down more, then I think he asserts himself as a top 10 cornerback right now in this league, and hopefully he can continue his interception success or get some type of turnover.
Yeah. I just wanted to give you a few key matchups for you to talk about. I didn't want to steal them all from you. I left
No,
Terrence Steele just for you because you love some Terrence Steele.
I do.
But yeah, I think
kinda,
I think Trayvon. Yeah. I'm glad we both have the same opinion on Trayvon Diggs. I already think that he's a top 10 corner, based on there are not very many great corners. They're not like 10 great corners, really. That's kind of a position that is always changing. So I feel like since Trayvon Diggs has forced a turnover in 3 straight games to start the year, that he just automatically vaults into that top 10. With quarterback, there are so many competent, really good quarterbacks that it's kind of hard to build your top 10. But with corner, I feel like it's pretty easy to shuffle people in as they perform.
He could have had close to 9 interceptions if he caught the ball last year. I feel like people don't understand how close he was to the ball every single play. And if he could have just used those Nick Saban catching skills better last year, then we might be talking about a different player altogether. But I'm really happy that he's getting talked about, and I feel one of Trayvon Diggs' things that has me getting better with is, if you remember last year, the first Washington game when he was guarding Terry McLaurin, and McLaurin, I guess, dropped the ball. It was a bad pass, and then Diggs got right up in his face, and then McLaurin burnt him for 50, 60 yards, and I was just like, well, rookie, you got to do better than that. But as you saw last week, he was up in Hurts's face talking and going up to the Eagles sideline and doing things that just having confidence that I haven't seen a defensive player, especially a secondary player on the Dallas Cowboys have in a while. Byron Jones kept to himself, and he couldn't catch a ball to save his life. He just like you always talked about. You would not hear his name for 60 minutes, and you would know that he had a good game. Mm-hmm. But I think it's good that you do hear Trayvon's name, and he is all over Instagram and it is all over Twitter, because it shows that this defense isn't as bad as it was last year by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm happy to see players outside of Zeke and Dak and Damari and CD get some well-deserved social media attention.
Yeah, especially since defense is by far the most important aspect of your football team. It's great if you can have good offense, flashy players who get a lot of yards and touchdowns. But if your defense is incompetent, like it's been for a lot of the 2000s, then you're not going to win very many football games, regardless of who you have on offense. But yeah, any other key matchups that you have that we might have missed before we kind of go into game breakdowns?
I think we can both agree that Dan Arnold, I guess, their tight end that they traded away, he would have been in the Jacksonville game on Thursday. He looked like a pretty good piece. So if he was still on this team, then we both would have talked about him, or I would have saw his name. But since the departure of him, which I think is also an underrated thing for Darnold, because especially Dak, a lot of quarterbacks love to have their safety valve on a tight end, and losing a tight end for a first-year quarterback on a new team may be very rough for him, because I don't know if tight ends usually get open relatively quickly when it takes wide receivers a little more time to develop their routes. So It'll be interesting to see how he plays. But outside of that, I think we can get right into keys and your game plan.
Yeah. So for the Panthers, my game plan is very simple. Do your best to get the ground game going and try and get some sort of spark from your backup running back. They've always liked to run the football. That's probably why Christian McCaffrey is down and injured, because they ran him into the ground the first three games. He got 30-ish touches a game the first two the first two and multiple passes out of the backfield. So it's going to be big for them to get Hubbard going, and that'll just basically kind of give us our blueprint of what exactly the Dallas Cowboys are on their defensive line when it comes to stopping the run, because we really don't know. But I think if the Panthers can get that going and open up their play action, get Sam Darnold out of the pocket and get him moving on the run and delivering the football, I think that will be a pretty solid way to get some yards and to get some points, because I do think Sam Darnold is at his best when he is out of the pocket and rolling and moving to his dominant side. So if they can do that and get some touchdowns early, I think it will put some pressure on the Dallas Cowboys as a team, because they've never really been, down in a game that they should win. That would be their first game that they should win, that they would be behind. I mean, the Bucs game, they weren't really expected to win. The Chargers game, they weren't really expected to win. And the Eagles game, they were expected to win, and they blew them out. So I think that if the Panthers were to get ahead by 10 or 14, 17 points early, it could put that pressure on the Dallas Cowboys, and we would really see what kind of team that they are, in my opinion. But with that being said, I don't really think the Panthers are going to do that, because you can't replace Christian McCaffrey. And I think the Dallas Cowboys defense, while I have not given them the over-exaggerated high praise, high remarks, I think that they are a good enough defense to be able to stop Chuba Hubbard at running back. So I think that the Cowboys are good enough on defense and on offense to win this football game without Christian McCaffrey, even with the heroics of Mono Man Sam on the opposite side.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the defense is much better, which isn't saying much because they were horrendous last year. I do think that Hubbard at least 3 times will have a 10 plus a rush for a carry for 10 plus yards, and you're going to be like, am I looking at the 2020 tape or is this the 2021 team? Mm-hmm. But then besides, even with Miles Sanders against the Eagles, he had a rush of 24 yards, and they just never used them again. If they ran Sanders like they have in years previous against the Cowboys, we may be talking about a 1-2 team instead of a 2-1 team. But I completely agree with all the things that you said. They definitely need to get the running game started, because the defensive line is not as deep as it has been in previous years or previous games and previous years. And if they get players like Oso Adigizua tired, they don't really have another defensive tackle that can go in and be as dominant as he is as a rookie. So it'll be very interesting to see how Matt Rule and the former LSU offensive or QB coach, offensive coordinator decide to do.
Yeah. So let's just get into the Cowboys, because we are Cowboys fans. We should give a little bit more of an extensive breakdown for the Dallas Cowboys, because we do want them to win. Because if they win, it means we can wear Victory Monday suits. So they need to win. But so for the Cowboys, my opinion about how they win football games has been the same for a really long time, and I'm going to stay exactly the same. Get the ball to Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Dallas Cowboys are undefeated in the Dak Prescott era when they run the football more than they pass. That is really, really important, considering that the most recent Dallas Cowboys under the Dak Prescott era have liked to throw the ball a lot and get a lot of yards, and Dak Prescott being an MVP favorite because he's throwing for a bunch of yards, but that's not really been a really good sample of winning football for them. They've only really had one game where they won, and that was just pure luck on that against Atlanta. But I think if they can get Zeke going and Tony Pollard going, attack that Panthers defensive line, get them off balance, prevent them from pinning their ears back and rushing Dak Prescott, then they can get the passing game going. And especially with J.C. Horn being out, and I believe they have a safety who's also questionable and may or may not play, they should be able to have pretty much whatever they want down the field. Dante Jackson is a pretty solid cornerback, but he can't cover any wide receiver on the Dallas Cowboys. So I think that if we could get the running game going and use that to set up our passing game, we should have a pretty simple path to success on offense. Now, as for defense, I think it's going to be key that we pressure Sam Darnold early and often. If we can get some pass rush from Micah Parsons, or the defensive line gets some push and get him off his rhythm early, we can get him into forcing some turnovers, maybe fumbling or throwing some picks. Then we can get up early and pretty much seal the deal for this game. I think the scariest part about this football game without Christian McCaffrey is if the Cowboys let the Panthers hang around. Because if they let the Panthers hang around, I have a iffy, weird feeling that the Cowboys will turn back into the Cowboys that we know and love and blow the game late. So I think it's very important that they get to an early big lead and force Sam Darnold to start to try things that he should not try and ultimately revolve back into the New York Jets Sam Darnold. Because the Panthers are too talented to let hang around even without Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I completely agree. If the Cowboys can quote unquote stomp on their neck early and keep their foot on the gas, then this game shouldn't be too stressful. I feel like week 1 and week 2 were very stressful. Week 3 was not as stressful. And hopefully this one can stay not as stressful. But if the Cowboys let them stick around, then we may have a game like last year where Dak has to throw the ball more and we kind of divert from our true identity, as you say. My keys, I guess, are Darnold has already been sacked 6 times this year, so average of 2 sacks per game, which isn't too bad, but it's pretty significant. Their left tackle is Cameron Irving, who used to be on the Cowboys. If it's the same name, it might be a different guy, but if it is the guy that was on the Cowboys, and that should be a very easy game for Randy Gregory. The Cowboys need to set the tone early with the run game, kind of like they had done last week. They have to give Steele help because if Steele is one-on-one against Brian Burns, it may be an issue. He's nowhere as good as Bosa, but on the tape, he's a lot more flexible, I guess, and he can a lot quicker too. And Steele at sometimes doesn't have a lot of bend in his stance, and he can hopefully not. But I have a feeling that Brian will be able to get around him more often than not. Amari and CD have to have perfect games. Not necessarily saying they have to have 80 to 100 yards, but we can't have CD of week 1 dropping first down catches. And Amari, even though he's not 100% due to his ribs, he still needs to be able to get open against a secondary that isn't the best. And Dak needs to continue to trust himself at the line, call audibles. I think that's that's when Dak is at his best, is when he is in full control of the game. And it as a fan,
Game manager.
It's a lot easy.
Game manager.
Exactly. Well,
yeah.
It's a lot.
Just roll with it. I'm like, it's a compliment.
Oh yeah,
complete control. Game manager.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I think that it's good that in this stage of his progression that he's able to look at the whole defense and make calls that I don't think he would have made in years previous. I don't think a lot of quarterbacks would make, because Dak, for whatever reason, as soon as he stepped out on the football field in 2016, was surprisingly good against the blitz. And I feel for a young quarterback, blitzing them is the easiest way to knock them off. But Dak was able to roll with the punches and become better due to it. I personally don't think this game is going to be too difficult. If Christian McCaffrey was in here, I may feel very differently about this game. But Sam Hill, it honestly all depends how Chuba Hubbard does. If he can't get space and if he can't do much, then they're going to rely on Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. And hopefully DJ Moore can get sort of lockdown, I guess, held to lower than 50 yards would be perfect by Trayvon. And then Robbie Anderson, he's going to burn the Cowboys at least once or twice for a touchdown where it's like, what in the world is going on? But hopefully, hopefully Darnold will pull a Jalen Hurts and throw the ball 10 yards to underthrown. But my personal score prediction for this game is 27-20 Dallas.
Yeah. Just a few quick things I want to say that I forgot before I give my score prediction. I do not want to see any cute trick plays from the Dallas Cowboys on offense or special teams. If they have a reverse in their playbook, they need to throw it in the trash. Every run that they give, unless it's to Tony Pollard on like a toss or a sweep, needs to be in between the tackles with Zeke. I don't want to see CeeDee Lamb coming on a reverse. I don't want to see Tony Pollard getting the ball, then flipping it to Amari Cooper. Just throw all of those out the window because those are too cute for me, and that's how the Dallas Cowboys kind of keep teams in the game. Another thing, just wanted to touch on Dak. I think Dak Prescott is at his best when he is rolling out and on the run. So I do think that when the Cowboys get into trouble in those games is when defenses keep him in the pocket. Even though he has progressed into a better pocket passer from his rookie year, I feel like that's where he's at his weakest because he kind of gets stuck in the pocket, and that's where he gets most of his strip sacks is when he's just in the pocket. So I think that's why I think that it's a good thing for the Cowboys to get their running game going because that allows them to play action and get Dak on bootlegs to where he can hit Dalton Schultz, Blake Jarwin, or Amari Cooper and CD down the field. So I think a pretty important part of their game plan should be to run the ball to set up that play action bootleg and get Dak Prescott in rhythm and on the run to his dominant side. I think the Cowboys are going to win this game by 2 scores. I'm going to say it's going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game than you believe. I'm going to go with Dallas 26 and Panthers 16.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you some over-unders, and then I have some interesting things that I have found about the Dallas Cowboys. And then if you have any over-unders, you can, of course, ask. Brian Burns, 2 sacks. Do you think he's going to get over or under 2 sacks?
Over 2 sacks.
DJ Moore, over under 85 yards.
Under.
Robbie Anderson, over under 100.
Over. Like you said, that one big play.
Yep. Zeke, over under 100 rushing yards.
Over. It's going to be Zeke's first 100-yard game in a very long time. Feed the man.
Tony Pollard, over under 70 yards rushing.
Under. But that's only because Zeke is going to get a bunch of carries this game.
Dak, over under 250 throwing or passing yards.
I'm going to say over, but not by much. But I don't think he needs to throw for very many yards to win.
Yeah. Well, I was scrolling the Cowboys universe Twitter, and I saw that the Cowboys have an NFL high 10 defensive players who have maxed out at 19 miles per hour while running, which is pretty great. I feel like the Cowboys haven't had speed. So, like, if a guy's running in a straight line or trying to tackle someone, which I don't think the Cowboys have had this type of speed in a while. Well, you could say Rod Marinelli, I'll knock him for a lot of things, but one thing that he was really good at was telling his defensive tackles and defensive ends that no matter where the ball is, just go and run towards it. And I feel like that's kind of has transitioned into these Cowboys because all over the place, they're just running, especially Micah Parsons. Dak leads the league with a completion percentage of 72.5, which is ridiculously high. Dak is averaging 2.52 seconds before pass, which apparently is the fastest that he's gotten the ball out, which is just showing how much he has progressed in year 5. And the
And
last
that's
thing
and
I
that's
thought
taking
was,
into account those plays where he's held the ball a little bit too long. So that's still pretty impressive.
yeah,
That routinely
exactly.
he's getting the ball out very very quickly.
Yeah. And the last thing, which I think you're gonna like a lot, Dan Quinn, when he was hired by Dallas, he came without a playbook. He sat down with his staff and built one based off the players in the building, which I think is awesome because a lot of people heard last year that Nolan just came in and tried to teach these guys when that defensive unit was not the best. So it was kind of difficult, especially with having a COVID off season, to teach these guys something that they didn't know. I think that it's awesome that Quinn went in there and built plays around the speed of Micah Parsons and how much better these safeties are, which I think is awesome and something that he should definitely be talked about more.
Yeah. I'll touch on that, but I really want to touch really quick on that. The speed thing, I think that's amazing because I do feel like even when Marinelli did come in and become the defensive coordinator, that was one thing that he preached was hustle. And even if those Dallas Cowboys in 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, they were giving up those, bonehead plays that you're just like, what are you doing? But then they'd always follow up with a solid tackle or they'd get a turnover because they were always hustling, always around the ball, always like trying to always hustling. And I think the last few years when they've gotten in trouble was they kind of shied away from that. They kind of turned into just kind of not, I don't want to say like not giving their best effort, but they were relying on their talent, I think. And I think when you start relying on your talent, that's when you start giving up those plays and not taking the ball away. I think what's great about Dan Quinn's defense is that he's preaching hustle and and all of them are playing hard. They're all going for the football, finding the football, and attacking the football. And having really fast guys is a really great way to win football games because even if they're beat, they're going to get back in the play and make that tackle and avoid giving up a touchdown. So I really think that's great. And then also Dan Quinn building a playbook. I think that's great especially because they were, giving him a hard time. Me too. Like, oh, he's just drafting guys that he had in Seattle, blah, 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 with those long arms, blah, blah, blah. But even if he was doing that, he was also building that playbook to help Jalen Smith succeed, Van Der Esch succeed, DeMarcus Lawrence succeed, Anthony Brown succeed, Trayvon Diggs succeed, Jordan Lewis succeed, Randy Gregory succeed. Like every defensive player was taken into account when he was building this defensive scheme. And it's really probably I give him high props, and he's probably the main reason that the Dallas Cowboys defense has looked this good is because they're all in a scheme that is most successful based on their play style. So they're not being put in situations where they shouldn't, where they will not succeed. So I give him high praise for that. He has not looked like the Atlanta head coach, Dan Quinn, with that defense. It's looked a lot better. But I still think that they need to have a little bit more of a sample size, especially against the run B, to ultimately make an assessment of how good they actually are.
Yeah, of course, 100%. I feel the same way, but I'm just saying in like these past 3 games,
Yeah.
it looks a lot better.
Yeah, I have a few over unders that I have set. So the first one I have Sam Darnold over under 30 rushing yards. It's a tough one.
I'll
You think.
I'll say over. Sometimes he'll run for a decent amount. I'll say that his main rushes are gonna be all the corners and safeties and linebackers covering well, and then he just has like 5 to 6 or 5 to 7 yard gains a few times throughout the game, which will lead to 30. I don't think he's gonna have a big just one rush for 30, but yeah, over.
Okay, over under special teams touchdowns for any team.
0. I heard that there's no set kick returner. It's just between CD and Cedric, whoever feels better. So if CD has a big catch for like a 60-yard touchdown, then Cedric will go out there on the next punt return. I like it. I'd much rather be a set guy, but I will let the Masters decide that. But I would say 0 because I think that Fossil has learned better.
Yeah. Over and then another special teams over under special teams penalties for the Dallas Cowboys at 4.
Oh, under. It'll be 1 at the most. Well,
Okay.
2 under them.
All right. Hopefully, we're going to avoid those running into the kicker penalties or personal fouls on the special teams that really shot ourselves in the foot. Especially just against the Chargers, we were able to survive even with that, but that was just egregious. And then finally, over under Dak Prescott 2 fumbles.
Under.
I like to hear
fumbles like recovered by Cowboys or just 2 times the ball being on the ground.
2 fumbles over under Panthers recover. Like he fumbles the ball and the defense gets it.
The ball may be put on the ground a few times, but I don't think maybe Burns will recover 1, but I doubt Dak allowing that to happen more than once.
Okay. All right. Those are my over unders. Yep.
So very nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to slide in my weekly celebration for Mr. Eli Manning, who is not calling a Monday Night Football game until week 7. That is true pain. I will have to sit through the normal broadcast for a couple of weeks, and I'm not really looking forward to that. But with that being said, especially with Tom Brady going back to his first home, the New England Patriots, thank you, Eli Manning, for beating Tom Brady in that Super Bowl and stopping the undefeated perfect season. And also just stopping Tom Brady from getting 9 rings, because Eli Manning is the reason why he does not have 9 rings. That's almost 2 Infinity Gauntlets. Imagine how screwed we would be if he had 9 rings. But yeah, thank you, Eli Manning, for being clutch in the Super Bowl. I really appreciate it, even though you caused me quite some pain beating the Cowboys that year in the divisional round. Patrick Creighton, I still hate you. But thanks, Eli Manning. Follow that man on Twitter. He is a very hilarious human being.
Yes, he is. I saw one of his tweets a few days ago. It was what was it about? I forget, but it was really fun. I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah, he makes he jokes about his brother's large forehead, Peyton Manning. That's just because he has so many audibles up in there. It just inflates his forehead. That's probably something that he's told him before. But yeah, thanks, Eli Manning. You're a true legend. If I was voting for your Hall of Fame status, I would vote for you. Yeah. Anything else that we got before we wrap it up?
I have the week 4 schedule pulled up in front of me.
All right, let's do it.
Would you like to? Okay.
Let's do it.
Titans, Jets, and this.
Wait,
is
hold
Titans.
on 1 second. 1 second. I am writing an O and an R. Okay.
So Titans, Jets, and this is the Titans without their 2 wide receivers.
I'm going to take the Titans because I think the Jets are just incompetent. Even with Julio Jones and A.J. Brown not there, I feel like Derrick Henry is going to have 500 rushing yards. So I'm going to go with the Titans. Who do you got?
I have the Titans as well.
All right. Perfect.
Next game, Lions, Bears.
I'm going to take the Lions. The Lions have been in all of their games this year. And I think the Bears they don't have a good head coach, and they don't really have a great quarterback situation right now. I think if Andy Dalton were to play, I think the Bears would win. But I think since he's probably not going to play, I'm going to take the Lions.
It's a game time decision, Nagy said. So I don't really know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, but I'm going to take the Lions.
The next game, Colts, Dolphins.
I'm going to take the Colts.
Colts, yeah.
Who are you taking the last game?
I'm taking
The
Titans,
Lions.
Lions,
Okay,
Colts.
and then Colts. Carson Wentz is going to get his first win.
And the next thing after that, Browns, Vikings.
I'm going to go with the Vikings. First Cousins is going to get it.
Okay.
Who do you got?
I have the Browns winning that one. I feel like their defense is too dominant. But for all I know, Dalvin Cook could decide to run a lot and have many, 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 many rushing yards.
I mean, he is also a game. I think he is also a game time decision with his ankle, so it could be Mattinson back there. But I still think Justin Jefferson and Adam
He's
Thielen.
still competent.
Yeah, their backup running back could be a starter anywhere, but
Yeah.
he sits out, waits his turn. When Dalvin Cook gets hurt, that 1 or 2 games per year, he comes out and shows out. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Game after that is the Washington football team and the Falcons.
I'm going to take the Washington football team. The Falcons aren't very good on defense, and I think the Washington defense should be able to stop the Falcons.
Yeah, I have Washington too. After that, Texans, Bills. I have
Bills by
Bills.
30.
Yep. After that is the Giants, Saints. I have the. Who do you have? Giants, Saints.
I'm going to take the Giants in an upset.
Yeah, I don't know. Jameis. I feel like Jameis is gonna Jameis.
I think Saquon's going to get going early, and it's going to take some pressure off Mr. Daniel Jones, and Darius Slayton is going to catch that deep ball this time. So I'm going to take the Giants.
So I have the Giants too. Now here is the closest game of the week: Chiefs, Eagles.
I'm going to take the Chiefs by a lot.
So am I. And we're going to skip the Cowboy game. So after you have the Chiefs one down, I'm picking the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
It is the 49ers, Seahawks.
I'm going to take the 49ers because I feel like they're a more rounded football team. I think Russell Wilson will keep it close and do what he always does, but I think the 49ers are just too talented everywhere.
I have Seattle winning this game.
All right.
After that is the Cardinals, Rams, which I think both teams are undefeated.
Yeah, I'm taking the Rams.
So am I.
Same reason as the game before. They're more well-rounded than the Cardinals.
I don't think Kyler is all that good. People have only been talking about him this year because he had that one play where he ran all around the field and then completed a pass. In my opinion, at least.
I think Kyler is a very good fantasy quarterback.
Yes, good fantasy. I don't think he's a good IRL.
I have my own opinions on Kyler Murray, but I'll save them for when Dallas plays them later in the year.
Oh yes, of course. Packers, Steelers.
I think the Packers are going to win. I'm very disappointed in Ben Roethlisberger, so I'm just going to.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Packers too.
Go Aaron Rodgers for that one.
Yeah. Now here we have the Broncos' first test in the 2021 season. Ravens, Broncos.
I'm gonna take the Broncos. I think the Ravens defense can be beaten, and I think Teddy Bridgewater has shown this year that he can be a serviceable quarterback. I think if Drew Lock was starting, they wouldn't win, but I think the Broncos are good enough on defense to give Lamar Jackson some problems, and especially Lamar Jackson has been banged up, missed some time in practice this week, so he's not going to be 100%. So I'm going to go with the Broncos to get an upset.
He's fully healthy, right? Bridgewater.
Yeah, fully healthy.
I thought. Then who's that one quarterback that had a hamstring injury?
Tyrod Taylor. He's with Houston.
Oh, yes. Okay, I have the I don't know because Lamar after he flipped, he hurt his shoulder. So I'm gonna say, I'll say Broncos on this one. Shoulders, as Dak shown, can be very, very bad injuries.
Right.
Game of the week, in your opinion? Yeah, exactly. Buccaneers, Patriots.
I'm going to take the Buccaneers by 3 scores.
Yeah, Buccaneers for me too.
All right, and finally, we
Monday
come
night.
to our final game of the week.
Yeah, the Monday night game. It is the Raiders-Chargers.
I'm going to take the Chargers to give the Oakland Raiders, they're not Oakland anymore, the Las Vegas Raiders, their first loss of the season.
I have the Raiders on that one.
Go Justin Herbert.
I have the Raiders on that one.
All right, so we have 3 picks that are different.
Okay.
So that is whoever wins this whoever wins the picks gets a congratulations on the next podcast.
Yes, which will most likely be Tuesday.
Exactly. Yep, most likely Tuesday.
I think that wraps this episode up, episode 17. So congratulations to you, Ray, on being here for 17 episodes.
To you as well.
Thank you. And if you're looking for something to do besides watch the football game on tomorrow at noon or 1, depending on where you are, you can follow us on Twitter at America's Team, capital P, capital C, and Ray will be tweeting up a storm, making sure that everyone knows how he feels. And if for whatever reason you are a Buccaneers fan or a Patriots fan, he will also be tweeting up a storm tomorrow night. So make sure to tune in.
Yeah, me and my buddy, Mr. Yoda, Mr. Baby Yoda, we will both be tweeting. So be sure to look out for that.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And Ray, anything else you want to say?
Yeah, just we also have an Instagram. It's not as active as the Twitter, but it's all about America's Team on Instagram. We'll be posting every once in a while on there some updates or on the podcast. YouTube, this is where this recording will go after it is over. It's also where you can watch our shows live and bring in some comments. We didn't get any today just because Saturday is just a huge football day. So everyone's just kind of watching some college football. That's what I'll be doing for sure, and I'm sure Owen will be as well, as our university's football team will be playing tonight. So that's going to be happening. Yeah, quite a big game for them. And also as well, just I guess tune in for Tuesday when our post game reaction will come out for the Panthers and Cowboys. Hopefully it's a victory Monday. But that should do it for us. Thanks for everyone who will watch this on YouTube or when this episode comes out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, etc., any other podcast platform. Thanks for spending this 40, almost 50 minutes of your time with us, and we will see you next week to get into the Panthers-Cowboys breakdown, and then also later on in the week for the Dallas Cowboys matchup with the New York Football Giants. So that'll do it for us today. Have a great rest of your day, and go Cowboys.
Yeah, have a good week, guys. Go Cowboys.